Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Ketvach Shvua Tov. We are learning Mishnah Shabbos, Parak Chav, chapter 20, Mishnah Hey, Mishnah 5. I dedicate this morning's learning in memory of my mother, Mrs. Shlomis Rabinowitz, Shlomas Vas Rabbi Yaakov Eliezer. Okay, Hakash al Gabi Hamita. If you have straw on top of a bed. Now, straw, we've been talking a lot about straw, and we may have thought that the typical use of straw is for animal feed, but it was not. The typical use of straw, at least in times of the Mishnah, was as a fuel. You used to burn it as a fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's what the typical use of the standard use, let's call it, the typical use of straw is, that makes straw muktzah. Because you can't use it on Shabbos for what it's designated for, because you can't burn it on Shabbos. So therefore, it has no use. It's muktzah. Now, it's on top of a bed. Now, that means it's on top of let's call it a bed frame, okay? Or on a very thin mattress, okay? And you got the straw that's on top of the bed, and you want to lay down. So what do you want to do? You want to kind of spread it out and fluff it up, right? To make it more comfortable and soft to lie down on. But it's muktzah. So what do you do? So the Mishnah says, you may not move it with your hand. You cannot, move it around and fluff it up with your hand. But you can move it around with your body. Meaning, if let's say you lie down on it and you move your shoulder and your back and everything to move it around, that form of moving muktzah, the sages did not forbid. Understandably, moving something with your body like that is not the typical way of moving something. And that kind of, call it atypical movement with your body of something that's muktzah is something that the Chachamim did not forbid. And therefore, if you want to lay down on the straw, then and you need to move it around, you can't move it around with your hand, but you can move it around with your body. Now, if let's say this straw was designated to be used for animal feed, that's what you decided you're using it for. Or already on this straw, there's already a pillow, there's already a sheet, right? Which means what? That means you always planned on using it to lie down on. But you need to fluff it up. You need to make it more comfortable. Then you can move it with your hand. Because once you designate it for that permissible use, it's not muktzah anymore. And you're either designating it because you decided you're using it for animal food, or you basically spread it out on the bed in a way that it's clear that you want to be using it to lay down on. And therefore, again, it was designated for a permissible use, and therefore it may be moved with your hand directly. Okay, next case. All right, to get the next case, we have to look at this picture. Picture time, okay? All right, you see that little table? It looks like a little table?
Yep.
It's not a table.
That's a bed.
It's not a bed. It is a clothing press. The bottom, they had a bottom board. The four legs went through the bottom board, came up to a top board through its holes. And when they wanted to press the clothing, they would put the clothing on the bottom board, bring down the top board on the bottom board, and secure it in place with a peg that was put into the pole. Okay, so that's the case here. So now the thing is, so the Mishnah says like this: Now this kind of clothing press, there was the homeowner's one, the kind of home version. Then there was the launderers, the professionals. They had the commercial ones, right? They had theirs. So you've got the homeowner ones, and you've got the kaifs, you've got the launderers, the professional launderers clothing press. So the Mishnah says, if we're talking about a clothing press of a homeowner, matir, and you can undo it. That means if before Shabbos you had, the clothing is being pressed, right? And now you want to basically, undo it. You want to take out the peg, pick it up, and take out the clothing to wear. Then you can do that on Shabbos. You can take it apart. You can loosen it up and pick it up the board to be able to take out the clothing to use on Shabbos. I will like kaifshin, but you can't press it on Shabbos. When you decide on Shabbos, I'm going to put it in and put it down and press it that way. On Shabbos, you want to do it on Shabbos? That you can't. Why not? Because typically to take out the creases in this manner, you have to leave it there for about a day. You have to leave it there for a day. Which means if you're doing it on Shabbos, if you're first pressing the clothing on Shabbos, then you're really preparing for after Shabbos. It's not going to be ready for Shabbos. So therefore, you could take it out of the press on Shabbos, but you cannot put it into a press and press it on Shabbos. The shell kaifsin, and if we're talking about a clothing press of professional launderers, lo yigabai, don't touch it. You can't do nothing with it. You can't do anything with it. Why? Because the professional ones, when they were pressing and the peg was in very, very tight. It's professional. It was very, very tight. To undo that on Shabbos, the Rabban and the sages said you can't do it. It's like breaking it. It's like taking apart something. It's like soser. Soser means I demolish something. It means I take something and if I break something, I break something apart. Can't do that on Shabbos. So picking up the board, taking apart the professional launderer's clothing press on Shabbos is such a job that it's like that it's close to demolishing. It's close to it can make people think you can demolish something on Shabbos. Too close to demolishing, to demolishing something, the Chachamim said, can't do it. Rabbi Yehuda says, Im haya muter me'erev Shabbos. Now he's going back on the professional launderer's press. It was already somewhat mutter. It was somewhat already open, loosened on Shabbos. From Erev Shabbos. Meaning you have this thing in the professional launderers, right? The Tana comments, the first one you said, no touching. You can't do anything with it on Shabbos. You can't take it apart. You can't even take it apart on Shabbos. Take the clothing out. Yehuda said it was already loose from Erev Shabbos. That means that the pegs were already somewhat loose. So there's less involvement in trying to undo it. Mater eskulai, then you can undo the rest of it. Take out the peg, pick up the board, v'shamtei, and take the clothing out. According to Rabbi Yehuda, if it's already partially loosened from before Shabbos, so the job won't be such a big job of undoing it. That's not going to be similar enough to demolishing something that we should forbid it. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says, if that's what you have, then you're okay. If it's already partially loosened, finish loosening it up, take out the clothing, you're good to go. The Tanna Kama, the first opinion, who did not make this distinction, he holds that the way they bring it down here is that if we would allow you, even when it is partially loosened, if we allow you to finish loosening it on a professional clothing press, you may come to do it even if it wasn't partially loosened before Shabbos. And that we for sure don't want you to do. And therefore, to make sure that this could all work out, you cannot deal with the professional clothing press on Shabbos. And Bartanura says, the halach is not like a Yehuda, but it's like the Tanna Kama. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome, Mark.